Over the next few months, we're going to be producing a series of videos on the history of computer animation. In the last video, we looked at the early experiments of John Whitney, as well as the work of Ivan Sutherland and the staff at Bell Labs. In this video, we will follow these pioneers to Hollywood and meet others that would revolutionize an industry. Since the invention of the telephone, Bell System had been at the forefront of technological innovation. In 1925, they established Bell Labs, a research facility in Murray Hill, New Jersey. The discoveries made here have shaped the way that we communicate, from the transistor to the computer languages Unix and C++. In the early 1960s, they began experimenting with computer graphics, a term generally attributed to Boeing employee William Fetter. Fetter was a graphic designer who was instrumental in the development of wireframe 3D modeling. He was the first to create a human figure, known as the Boeing Man, and his aircraft carrier landing is one of the earliest examples of computer animation. Fetter was called to a meeting at Bell Labs in 1965. Also in attendance was Ed Zajac, who we covered in the last video, as well as Kenneth Knowlton. In 1963, Knowlton had developed BFlix, the first programming language specifically for animation. BFlix was a set of commands that could be written out on punch cards and fed into a computer. The computer would process these and output them onto magnetic tape that would be fed back into a computer and converted into small squares of light with varying intensity, with a film camera capturing the resulting patterns. The patterns BFlix was capable of producing included basic shapes, lines, and letters. The processed film came out gray, though color could be added through standard photographic methods. Bell Labs was interested in what this technology could do in the hands of an artist. They reached out to visual artists like Fetter to collaborate with their scientists to create experimental films. This meeting of logic and expression produced several films over the course of the decade. Michael Knowles' A Computer-Generated Ballet is an early example. Using BFlix, Knowles was able to render stick figures against a black background, or stage, and program them to dance.
This idea of you being able to program something so we know what it's supposed to do, and what I get a great deal of response out of is you don't know what it's exactly going to do in terms of images.
It's interesting to me that you say the unexpected things that happen.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, the computer has done exactly what you told it to do, right?
Ken Knowlton's collaboration with artist Stan Vanderbeek began in 1964. Vanderbeek was a filmmaker whose surreal work incorporated aspects of animation and modern dance. He created several exhibits using projectors and even designed and built his own theater, the Moviedrome, out of a grain solo to screen these experiments. Knowlton and Vanderbeek's partnership lasted 3 years, during which they produced the 8-part series Poemfield. In 1968, Knowlton began collaborating with Lillian Schwartz. More than anyone, Schwartz is responsible for bringing computer animation into the realm of fine art, with her work being among the first to be exhibited as such. She legitimized the new medium, and the films produced with Knowlton pushed the limits of what BFlix could do. When put next to the work of Knoll or Vanderbeek, we see the range of creative possibilities this primitive programming was capable of. Even with the limited technology, each artist's style is distinct, though because of these limitations they were still confined to the abstract. The push towards computer-generated cartoons began when Nikolai Konstantinov led a group of Soviet physicists to the creation of an animated cat walking, using mathematical equations. A computer program would solve these equations and print out sheets of paper containing several alphabet symbols that, when filmed sequentially, depicted the cat in motion. In America, computer animation would be introduced to the mainstream through Scanimation, an analog process used mainly for commercial purposes. Developed in 1969, it was prominent throughout the 70s and 80s thanks to its ability to create animation in real time. Countless television commercials and openings featured animation made on Scanimate systems. I find there is something very warm and nostalgic about Scanimation, and given the popularity of Vaporwave, I don't think I'm alone. But even with advancements in exposure, to many, the idea of a computer film was still novel. Technology had not yet caught up with traditional animation in terms of storytelling, though a major strive would be made with Peter Fould's 1974 short, Hunger. Produced for the NFB, Hunger built upon Folt's previous film, Metadata, in its use of interpolation. Interpolating, or morphing, is the act of animating the frames in between keyframes to create a smooth transition. In Hunger, Foltz uses this technique to transform a man consumed by gluttony. The technology and minds responsible for the computer animation of today were developed in the unlikely hub of Salt Lake City, Utah. In 1965, David Evans founded the Computer Science Department at the University of Utah, and in 1968 convinced Ivan Sutherland to join him there. The two formed the computer firm Evans and Sutherland and released Picture System, the first commercial frame buffer, in 1974. The firm's staff was comprised of former students, including Jim Clark, founder of Silicon Graphics, Adobe co-founder John Warnock, and Edwin Cutmell. Like most of us, Ed Cutmell was raised on the films of Walt Disney. He aspired to be an animator, but chose to pursue an education in science, believing he didn't have what it takes to make it in the entertainment industry. While he was attending graduate school in Utah, he studied under Sutherland and was introduced to a Sketchpad program. In this, Cutmell saw the possibility of computer-animated films, similar to the ones he'd grown up watching. Over the next couple of years, he dedicated himself to creating a film. Teaming up with Fred Park, he would produce a computer-animated Hand in 1972. The film was made by mapping polygons on a plaster mold of Edwin's left hand. This information was inputted into a computer and outputted as lines. This 3D model will be animated and shown 3 times during the film, first as wireframe, then halftone, and finally with smooth shading added and a precursor to another Cutmell invention, texture mapping. The hand went on to appear in the film Future World, becoming the first use of 3D computer graphics in movies. This was fitting as the first use of computer animation had appeared in the prequel, Westworld, 3 years earlier. Computers had been used to create film effects as early as John Wayne's work on 2001: A Space Odyssey. Though no CGI was used, his motion control and slit-scan photography techniques made the famous Stargate sequence possible. But the first film to fully embrace computer-generated animation was George Lucas's Star Wars. In 1975, Lucas founded Industrial Light and Magic with a small team of artists and engineers whose role was to create special effects for the film. The success of Star Wars led Lucas to expand the computer animation division within ILM as he intended to increase its use in the sequel. He contacted III, the team behind the effects for both Westworld and Future World, who created this test reel of X-Wing's flying information. While impressive, this outsourcing proved to be too expensive, and so he began searching for people who could create similar work in-house. His search led him to the New York Institute of Technology Computer Graphics Laboratory. NYIT had established the lab in 1974 with state-of-the-art technology and employed industry experts to run it. Among them was Ed Catmull, who was offered and accepted a job with Lucasfilm in 1979. In 1976, animator Steve Lisberger got an idea when he saw the video game Pong. He imagined a warrior whose world was contained within the game. This idea would become the film Tron. Originally intended to be an animated film, computer scientist and Utah alumni Alan Kay convinced Lisberger to instead use computer animation. They enlisted the help of III and approached Disney with their test animations. Disney had long been opposed to computer animation and were apprehensive of funding such an ambitious project. They would finance a test reel and agreed to produce after seeing the results. The final look at Tron is a combination of live-action, backlit, and computer animation that is still impressive today. It was accomplished by filming in high-contrast black and white film, with the actors acting against a black background. This footage was then placed over a light table and refilmed several times, frame by frame, using different color filters with the computer animation matted in. The amount of work and resources that went into this is staggering. Tron is a landmark in computer animation, and the same can be said for everything we've seen in this video. This period very much feels like the breakthrough, the acceptance of computer animation by mainstream audiences. These are the first steps towards a fully computer animated narrative, and the heights Edwin dreamt of. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, please subscribe, and if you haven't, go back and check out part 1. We also recently produced a video on the Hubblies, if you're looking for something a little bit softer, so check that out too. As always, I will post links to relevant material in the description, and of course, thanks for watching.